It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of Georgia Gwinnett College. You are tuned in now to the Grizzly Talk Podcast with your host, Kennedy Patterson. Welcome back to the show. And yes, as you guys can tell from the title, you guys can tell from the music for the intro. Shout out to Charles Ruth. That's a good song from the Fast and Furious series, honestly. But this podcast, this 1 hour spectacular, will be one podcast for the ages. Now, yes, that time has come. GGC, Grizzly Community. This is the Grizzly Talk Podcast, the farewell podcast. Let me tell you, this is bittersweet. It's very, very bittersweet because this was something that we planned for about a week and a half, and I needed to confirm some things, and I had to do graduation photos, and I had to get things ready. So we are excited to be doing this podcast simply because I will go through my long tail story of my GGC experience. I'll do kind of a brief version for this podcast because it's supposed to last 1 hour or so. So, I don't want to go too long rambling about crazy things, but I just wanted to highlight some of the good things for GGC. Yes, as many of you guys might have known by now, I am a senior and I am graduating this fall, of course. You guys can check out our Instagram at Grizzly_Talk. You guys can see my graduation photos that I partaked. Special shout out to Braxton Perry. Braxton Perry, y'all, he's very, very awesome photographer and a good friend of mine, so he was able to do that. And my brother Ryan was my posing coach. He gave me some of the poses that I wanted to do for the shoot. So the shoot went out really, really well for my graduation photos, and a lot of people are liking them as of right now because I published them this morning. So it's bittersweet, y'all. This is something that. Man, I tell you, this is something is crazy to say the least. It's so crazy that 5 years ago, 2015, I started GGC, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was an undecided major for a good 2 years of GGC, so I had no idea what I wanted to do, what path did I wanted to take. So I ended up being undecided for 2 years, and I was even able to, live on campus. Let me tell you about that experience. The on-campus experience has been one of the best experience for GGC, I would say. I do remember, and this is kind of a remiss kind of story, so this is going to be a great story for a great podcast because I'm giving you guys all the facts and all the things that I've experienced throughout my GGC career. 2015, let's start off with that. I ended up staying in a 12-bedroom suite. Those are very, very good suites. It was within my budget. I did, and I'll be honest, and I like to shoot it honestly with my GGC community. Starting up GGC, I was broke. I was broke, and I didn't have much money for a meal plan. So we were able to take loans out for both me and my brother to afford to live on campus because at the time it was expensive, and I ended up getting the 12 bed suite because it was cheaper out of all of the other suites they had available. So I was able to get that, and I was able to finesse that out really, really well. And the auxiliary services, they really helped me out trying to do some things, and they even gave me Beacon Grant, which was pretty great because it helped me afford some of the things that I needed to pay for, and I had no money. Again, this was me fresh out of high school with no job and nothing but just a high school diploma at the time. So it was a very, very interesting thing that we were able to get it done. So I ended up, we ended up affording the things we needed. And then I started my first core classes. Of course, there are going to be core classes that you have to take for just the core, just to get you started, and then you get interested in what you want to major in, and then you decide what you want to major in. Some people, I tell you, some people right out the gate, they know what they're going to major in. They know what they want to go get into. At the time, I didn't. I really had no idea what I wanted to do in pertains to a degree. So as we go on, I met so many great friends. Shout out to Connor, one of my good friends now. And ended up, he actually later on in the future, from 2015, ended up being my roommate for a while. I ended up meeting him. He was a college student at GGC, and that's when I met Alex and Tybree. Shout out to them. They're amazing. They planned out really, really well, and I remember when I first met them. I first met them when it was a Res Life campus welcoming party, I want to say it was. And it was more of a kind of a mixer, a mingle mixer, where you get to meet new students and you start off the semester strong. So at the time, I'm like, okay, I'll do that, because I had no friends. I had friends from, of course, high school, but, I didn't know that at that point in time. So I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I'm like, okay, let me just go out. And I ended up meeting Alex and Tybree and some of the RAs that were RAs at the time. So very, very exciting for that. And then some of my high school friends from Central Gwinnett High School, shout out to the Black Knights for sure. Some of them we ended up hanging out together because they ended up going to GGC as well. So we formed a little group where those freshmen that went to Central Gwinnett, they started around the same classes as me and my brother, because when you're a freshman, you kind of see the people you went to high school with, and you kind of circle around that a little bit. And then after you circle that around, then you kind of venture off, and then you start deciding what you want to do. Some students deciding, okay, I want to get this, and I want to transfer over to Georgia State or Georgia Technical or Georgia College in Milledgeville. Some people have done that before. So I ended up going through freshman year with the Breeze. It was a relatively easy course. Now, mind you, I did end up taking remedial math. And I'll say this on the podcast because, I've never been a great math student. So as I got through with that, I knew that, maybe I should go into I'm going ahead because I still didn't know what I wanted to do until 2016, I think. So fast forward out of freshman year into sophomore year, round 2, and I knew that this had to be different. This year had to be different than the last because, at the time, I still didn't have a job. I had a job around that time. But that was before I started GDN. And let me go back a little bit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble, but I forgot the most important part about my college experience. Not only living on campus and going to classes, but I ended up being a recruit for the Grizzlies Digital Network, of course, for GGC Athletics. So that portion was very, very interesting. I remember it like it was yesterday. So shout out to Mr. Matt Mahoney. Hopefully he's listening to the podcast maybe, and he can relate to this story best. But I remember when me and my brother were thinking about getting into, it was 2015, and we didn't know, we wanted to get more involved, let's just say. So we didn't just want to go to class and then to Res Life and then to the dining hall and then just call it a day. We wanted to get more involved in what we wanted to do. So I ended up forcing him. And if you guys know my brother Ryan, he will tell you I always force him into things that he don't want to do. I always do it. When we were little, a little bit younger, we played baseball, and I forced him to play baseball with me because I didn't want to be alone. So I always force him into things that he really just don't want to do, but he ended up doing it with me anyway. So we went to the film club at GGC. We went to their first meeting just to fill them out because, at the time, me being a YouTuber and him being a YouTuber as well back in the day, we both wanted to get in some sort of film kind of light of things. So that's when Matt Mahoney came in and he was trying to recruit students for Grizzly's digital network. And at that time, I did not know what that was. I'm like, what is that? Is that some sort of club? Is that a production? Like, what is that? So he was telling me all the things you would do with athletics and sports production. So I said to my brother, I was like, hey, that might be fun to do. Like, that can give us a good distraction from everything else that goes on and that happened in our lives for sure with college and other things going on. So I forced him into going to the first production site and seeing what it was about. So we ended up going there, and at the meeting we met him, and he was like, okay, yeah, be at this, we're going to have a game this Friday, come out to this game, and see if you like it, and, we'll go from there. So I ended up going to the game with my brother with athletics, because back in high school, we always loved going to the high school football games with friends. So we thought, okay, this would be something completely different, something new. So we ended up going to the sports game. I think it was women's soccer, in 2015. We were just listening in, and we're just like, whoa, this is really cool, I felt more intrigued about it than my brother. I knew from that moment on, this would probably be something that my brother would never want to do. So I ended up joining GDN without my brother, because that was just something he didn't want to do. He told me, let me go find my niche. I'll go find something else to do. I'm going to let you have this one. This seems like you want to do this more than me. I'm not interested in this. So I ended up joining GDN, and I became the junior videographer. I was kind of a trainee because it was fall of 2015. So I was still learning the ropes of things, and I was still learning about a lot of things with production. And then at that time, that's when I met really, really great friends of Ebony Liggins and Marissa. Ebony, a.k.a. known as Nate Songs. She's out there doing her thing right now. It's pretty impressive. So I ended up meeting those two wonderful people. And they really showed me the light about production. They really trained me up, and at the time, this was a production network that was ongoing, but it was still kind of fresh at that time. So I ended up meeting more people in the production. I ended up meeting Hassan Khan. He was a pretty awesome dude. Congratulations to him. If he somehow listens to the podcast, I think he got married. So congratulations to him for sure. And I ended up meeting Michael Day. I almost called him Michael Bay, film director. Michael Day, great producer, great director as well. And I think that was pretty. Oh, and Robert, he's pretty good too. He's one of our lead videographers. He was the senior videographer. So, and I think I'm missing. I think Myron. I remember meeting him one time, and he was way back in the day. So as 2016 came along with GGC, now we can go back to 2016. I knew that I had to make a mark. I knew I had to be able to afford a lot of things. And what I'm about to say next this is not why I have done what I've done and, intrigued and did what I did for what I needed. So 2016 was the spring semester. So we ended up having, of course, funding for the springtime. But I knew my funding was going to go out back in the day. I knew I'm not going to have money to afford this dorm room, this res life, anymore after this year, because it's a lot of money. And that's just something, unfortunately, that we didn't have. So I ended up going, meeting some RAs, and quite a few RAs was very, very friendly. Quite a few RAs that I can mention now that I've talked to now, in particular, Akia, Aaliyah, Alexis, Lauren, Michael Masha, Ben, I think, Ben, and I'm blanking out on some of the veteran, Sheena, she's a veteran too. I ended up meeting some of them, and Austin as well with PETA and Roshan. So those are the veteran RAs that, were the veteran RAs at that time. They were the RAs at the time. And I ended up being Roshan's CA, because I asked him about that, the RA role. Like, what is that exactly? Is that something else I can sink my teeth into? So he was telling me all the things about it and being leaders and working leadership and, really providing service to the Res Life resident students. And I kid you not, this is not why I joined the RA, but this was a very, let me be honest, this was something that I needed to do financially as well. I'm not going to go out there and say for the future GGC students that are going to GGC and thinking about being an RA, you should never go be an RA just for the free room and board. You just cannot do that because you will not enjoy the job. But at that time, honestly, I can say I needed to do that for that free room and meal plan because I knew I could not afford it. So I ended up being Roshan's CA, and then I met some of the RAs, and they said to me, it was like, Kennedy, you're a really nice dude. Like, this could be something you could do. Here's what you need to do. You need to go meet Miss Sandrine. So they told me that, and I'm like, okay, oh, she, who's Sandrine? Like, I don't know who she is, but I'll be glad to go meet her. So they set up a meeting with me with Sandrine, and when I first met Sandrine, I can tell she knew at the time, yes, you need to be an RA next year. You just have to, because you got that leadership role. You got it in you. So me and her, I remember, again, it was in her office at Res Life, and I remember it again like it was yesterday. When I first met Sandrine Aracuna, she told me about position. She told me, here's what I need to do. She also told me about the GPA requirement. So I worked really, really hard that semester to ensure a good GPA because I knew this was something that I wanted to sink my teeth into for sure. So around that year, I told my friend Connor, and then I told Alex and Tybri around that year. I told them the things that we could do as RAs together. We planned it out like it was yesterday. Like, man, like this is something that we just absolutely need to do. So as I'm telling Alex and Tybri, more RAs told me about it, and this is where it comes when I met my good friend Raga. So if you guys don't know about Uday Raga Davini, she was a great friend of ours. She unfortunately passed away about a couple weeks back, and we ended up going to her kind of like vigil, and we're doing something on Google Docs to commemorate her memory. So Raga, if you're in heaven right now, I hope you are resting in paradise, my good friend. She told me about the RA position, and she also helped me. She also helped recruited me into the process as well. So, she's a great friend that will most definitely be missed for sure. So we ended up going in back to GGC Athletics. I became the official junior videographer officially, and with that, I ended up getting work study. That was something that my financial aid had in my plan, was work study. And people were telling me, hey, you should do work study as well, just to kind of help you out until you can become an RA. So I ended up doing work study with GDN. And let me tell you, I've had the best years at GDN, and particularly 2016 and 17, because 2016, I was the go-to videographer. I was always on schedule. There's been some very memorable moments where we've done Media Day and we've done all the media content. Also in 2016 with GDN and GGC Athletics within the college GGC career, I ended up going to Denver, Colorado. This was the first time this wasn't the first time that I traveled out of state, because if you back in 2014, I traveled out of state to Florida. I've been to Florida so many times. And I've been to Florida, and I've been to Ohio, I've been to Kentucky, I've been to Tennessee, I've been to Mexico, believe it or not. So this was the first time with this trip, the first time I've been on the West Coast, Denver, Colorado. So, or kind of Midwest Coast, I guess. Maybe it's more like Midwest. But this was first time going to Denver, Colorado. I had never been. So let me tell you that story. That story came about when, and this is kind of fast forward to fall of 2016, because now I had become an RA as well. Around that year, 2016 of fall, I was RA, first year, really rocking it. I had, at that time, I had all guy residents, and that was pretty easy to manage. And they called me up. Matt called me up and said, hey, fall 2016, November-ish, I think. did really good this year with RA. I had no write-ups. I did my job well. My residence was very pleased with me at that year. Everything was done. So Matt called me up. I want to say that it was Thanksgiving break. I think it was around that time or the week before Thanksgiving because it was in November. And, at first they were telling me about, they're going to Denver, Colorado. They're traveling. It's both men's and women's soccer teams. They're going to go there. And Matt he called me up and said, hey, Kennedy, what you got going on this week? And I remember like this was yesterday. I was just like, what? I'm just like, well, I'm doing some light studying, but I mean, the semester's pretty much over. I'll be here on Thanksgiving week because I might have to be on duty. So I'm just really chilling, really. And he said, well, no, let me back up. He said, what am I doing tomorrow? And I told him that. He said, so what you doing for the next week? I'm like, he kept asking me, what am I doing? It's like, what's going on? Like, am I in trouble? Like, am I going to get fired from GDN already? Like, what's going on? So he tells me that, hey, we have the budget for GDN to travel to Denver, Colorado with both men's and women's soccer teams for the tournament. We got contracted to produce the whole entire tournament for, and I think this was Turbo Sports, I think. That was the company that contracted us, to go out and film. So, and I'm like, holy crap, Denver, Colorado, huh? He was telling me the trip. He said, hey, if you can get off, pack a bag. We leaving tomorrow morning. A free room and board. We'll pay for your hotel and your travel expenses. All you need is just an ID. And I said, holy crap. I would love to go, but I have to figure that out to see if the RDs, residence directors, can give me that week off. So this was the moment where I knew I had done a great job because I immediately got on the phone with both resident directors. It was Lauren Outler at the time and Sandrine Iracuna. They were the two RDs. And I said to them, hey, I need to travel out. I need to go out of town for about a week. And I went in. I didn't just be vague with it. I told them because at the time, I was working on something to get more interaction between Res Life and GGC Athletics because at the time there was a gap where a lot of people didn't know about athletics. People weren't coming out to the games. People just didn't care about athletics. So I knew at that time this was my mark. I needed to make this an opportunity so that way I can talk to the athletes, not only to work, but to talk to the athletes and really understand and to really bridge that gap. And I told them that. And I said, this will be very, very good for us moving forward as Res Life because it's a done deal. It's a done deal if I'm able to talk to the athletes and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we think, and this is what we can do to change it. And I told the RDs that this is a plan. I'm working on it. And I told them this is a plan because I'm planning on returning as a second year RA as well. And I'm working towards something. I just need this shot. So graciously, they said, okay, Kennedy, that's fine. No worries. Go do what you got to do and bridge that gap for us and make your plan happen. We will back you up. We'll give you that week off, and you're good to go. So I said, yes, awesome. So I ended up emailing professors because, again, that's still a school week now. I ended up emailing professors at the time and said, hey, I know we don't have much to do this week. And some of the work is at home. Can I take this on the road with me and do my homework while I'm traveling away for business? I told my professors that I was like, I'm doing a big trip for the school, and I just needed that week off. I'm doing a huge missionary trip for the school, and every professor said, okay, do your thing. We'll see you when you get back. And I'm like, yes. Not normally professors say, well, you're going to miss this. Or your boss at Res Life might have said, oh, well, I needed you this week for duty. So it worked out really, really, really well. So I ended up packing a bag and, I ended up traveling to Denver, Colorado with both the teams, got to know them really, really well, bridged the gap between me and them, and they now know who I am as a person. So that was just one of the things that I've been working on. I've been working on for years, and you guys can know I've been working on it. I'm still kind of working on it. So it shows that that trip was very, very fun. And I'm not going to get into the detail of the trip because you have to go back to my YouTube and watch the trip because I did a vlog about it. But that was very, very, very fun at that time. So fast forward, going forward, we're having a college career, we've traveled, we've been RAs, we've been on duty, we've been doing the work. School classes have been going great. I'll honestly say with our classes that time around, 2016, 2017, things got a little bit difficult. So in a good way, and I mean this solely in a very, very good way. At that time, I want to believe I was a junior at that time. And I knew to myself that, hey, I need to start thinking about what I'm going to major in. Now, mind you guys, I was still an undecided major at the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm a junior now. I need to figure, or half sophomore, getting towards the junior year, I need to decide what I'm going to do. What do I want to do for a degree? So, of course, I ended up declaring my major of business administration, and my concentration that year was international business. So I ended up going to claim that major, and, very, very good. They really liked it, and I thought to myself to be more of a businessman as well. So I ended up doing my thing and declaring that major. So fast forward, 2017 became a very interesting year because I'm taking more difficult classes that I have ever had before. And I can't remember, I think this was more of 2016, but I ended up, me and my brother both, we took an art class, and it was a Saturday class. Let me tell you, that's one of the things I regret, the scheduling of our classes. So, backing up from freshman year, I thought to myself, as a fresh meat, that's the expression, fresh meat in college, freshman, I'm like, okay, I'll get my classes done early. So I do some early morning classes, get up, do what I got to do, and then I have the rest of my day to myself. Long and behold, in freshman year, I regret having morning classes, getting up super early for a 7 o'clock class, extremely early in the morning, and then being tired the rest of the day. So I would never, and since I'm graduating, I'm of course never going to do that again, but I thought to myself after freshman year, I'm not doing this again. I would rather take 9 classes because this is really destroying me right now. So so the next thing with, classes in 2017 with me and my GGC career, it's been finally claiming a major, and classes have become more, I want to say more interesting because, it's more serious classes. I'm getting more into my degree program, and I've had so many more important classes than the core classes. And I'm not saying that all the classes are not important, but, there's a level tier there. There's, your core interim college classes, and then you get your mid hard classes, and then when you become a senior, you're taking your very utmost, very hard classes, and I'll get to that later in the podcast. So 2017, as we go through the springtime, still doing GDN, and at that time I was producing and I was directing as well. So that's been a fun experience. And then we also ended up recruiting a lot of more people. Shout out to my friend Chris Morales, Daniel Reed, Miles Evans, Zach Hicks. Those were some of the recruits that I was in charge of. Oh, and Alex Novak as well. Those are some of the recruits that, we recruited them on there. And, you really get to know the recruits because Miles Evans in particular, and I'll try to highlight every one of them, but I ended up working with Miles Evans on his short film, and we ended up going to Campus Movie Fest. And you guys can listen to him right now on, you can see him on Netflix. It's amazing. That dude has done a lot. He's in about, I want to say 3 things on Netflix right now. He's in The Hate U Give. I don't think that's on Netflix, but I've seen The Hate U Give. He's in that movie. Teenage Bounty Hunter. He's also in that one. That's his most recent work. And then God, Yes, God, Yes. He's a character in that movie as well. So he's done really, really well. I'm proud to see that he's going very far. Zach Hicks, I mean, what can I say? That dude is amazing at what he does. Whether it's videography, editing, special effects, he's there. He's amazing. I've seen some of his work as well. Let's see, Miles Morales. Me and him go way back because back in high school days, I've done what was called Grayson Technical College, Grayson Technical Program. Excuse me. So it was kind of a technical program where in high school you get to skip out on one of the classes that you don't necessarily have to take because that program will take care of it and cover it. And that's where I learned commercial photography, and that's when I met Chris. He was audio. He was in audio visual. I think the audio engineering, and I was in commercial photography. So I met him then, and then now seeing him at GGC. We've been, and it's been me and him. It's been me and him working for GDN, training GDN recruits, and doing what needed to be done, and really understand the length of things. And came Daniel Reed, good friend of mine as well, working together. So it really goes a long way with GDN in 2017. We really made our mark, and with RA as well, became more closer to the RA family. Let me tell you, the one fun experience, not only being an RA in particular, because that's fun, but the most fun experience that I've experienced with RA is to really understand our family. And I say this with all utmost passion, is family is important. Whether it's your physical, geographical family, or is it your friends that can be your family. So this was more of that, where I've had, a lot of friends that were RAs, and we became such a great family. And, it really goes a long way. The GRAS conference was very fun because that was an event where every RA came out to this conference to celebrate RAs. And every RA from every school in Georgia came out to this program, and it was very fun because, you really get to see the different RAs, whether it's, Spelman College, or whether it's Morehouse or Gordon State, or with Georgia State, us, Kennesaw State. Every school's RA program was at this conference, and that was a very fun program because we ended up, and I remember this was also yesterday. We've done a RA roll call video. It's available on YouTube at K.L.P. Entertainment, and it's probably on our Grizzly _ Talk Instagram account as well. That roll call video was something spectacular because that was the mark that we needed to make for the GRAS conference. We needed to do an introductory video, and we made it. We filmed it. It was awesome. So when we premiered it at the GRAS conference, we got turned up. It was because it was playing, and every other RA from every other school was watching the video, and they said, "Man, I wish we could have did something this cool." That was the mark we made because I not only filmed it, but I edited it as well. And it was so cool to see how that process was like. And this next thing, shout out to Benjamin Coker. He graduated about a semester or two ago, if I can remember. I think he graduated back in fall of the past fall, I think. So he rapped on it, and all he basically did is say he roll call all 40 RA's name and made it into a song, made it into a beat. So that was the mark that we left. And working with him, and he actually taught me music, honestly. He's actually one of the key players that really taught me the ways of how to make music, how I do now. So shout out to him for sure. He made that mark. So when we premiered that whole roll call video to the GRAS conference at Gordon State, we danced, we cheered, we were just like, man, we are it. We are the RAs of the century. That's what we felt like. And every other RA, it was more of a competition at that point. Every other RA was looking at us like, man, why did we not think of this? Or, man, why did we not do something like this? So that's one memory from the RA experience that I've really endured the most, because it was something very, very, and I do say in this almost very impactful thing that we made in 2017. And that GRAS conference was very, very, very fun to do. So as we get on to 2018, spring of 2018, this was the year where things changed completely. So I came to the conclusion at that year after 2017, we ended up going to, excuse me, we ended up going, I want to say we went to, I'm blanking because I can't remember the GDN trips that well. I remember them, but I can't remember the timeline. So I think it was 2016 or fall when we went to Denver. And I want to say 2017 was when we went to, that's when I went to Delray Beach, Florida. And that was for the men's soccer tournament. It was the same kind of concept. Second year in a row, Matt Mahoney called me up and said, hey, we might need you to do that thing what we did last time, but we might need you to do it this time around. So we got contracted, also from Turbo Sports, we got contracted to do Delray Beach. It was only the men's tournament only. I think the women's soccer went somewhere else. So I ended up going to Delray Beach. I ended up traveling with the boys 2 days before. And it was very interesting. That trip was very interesting because they needed me to do kind of a background footage. So they nominated me to go and do that. And at that time, I was president of GDN. And that was another thing, too, with my GGC career that we did is me becoming, well, first, Grizzly Digital Network finally becoming a student-run organization because you have students running the broadcast network and you have Matt be the coordinator. And I remember, I call it election night because that was the night we went to Connie House. I've been to Connie House so many times, but I love Connie House. We went to Connie House that time, and it was election night. It was a celebratory night. We've had so many people from GDN to come to Connie House to not only have a good hibachi food, but they talked about it and they said, okay, we are now officially an RSO. We're going to have budgets. We're going to do this and this and this and training. And they said, now the next part of our meeting, it was more of a business meeting, but it was a business dinner. Now they say, we're going to need to elect a president and vice president. And at that moment, I knew I need to be president because I've been with GDN so many times before, starting in 2015 and being called president in 2017. So 2 years, I want to say about 2 years, I've been constant with GDN, work study and all. So at that time, they said to me, hey, I think the only person that could really do really good as president is the person who's more devoted to GDN, has been GDN since the start of his college career. And that person is Kennedy Patterson. Everyone looked at me and they said, we got to do it. And then at the time, Chris kind of started the same kind of realm as me. We about the same timeline. He said to me, like, at that business dinner, and he said to everyone, like, I think Kennedy Patterson is the only person who can take this role. So it was pretty cool. They gave. It was kind of election night, so we played a game with it. When you get elected or you're running for presidency, as we all know currently, you do have to do a speech. So I ended up giving a speech on why I should be president. And then we came to the conclusion that, I will become the first ever president of Grizzly Digital Network, and Chris being my VP running mate. So Chris Morales being my vice president, I was president. And that was another mark we made because we made history. We've trained, we recruit a lot of students that year. That year was very interesting. 2017 and 2018 was a very good year for athletics because we recruited a lot of people. Especially that soccer season was just terrific because that soccer season was the year where we really recruited a lot of members to join, and we had a lot of people that year. So that was the peak of GDN that year. And then we ended up going to Delray Beach. They said, hey, President, we need you to go to Delray Beach. Can you make it? Of course, my RDs made it work. We were able to doing that, and I've had a fun trip at Delray. So now we're going to fast forward, y'all, 2018. Now, 2018 was the year of change. And I like to say that for the better and for the worse because, and I'll say it on the show now. I can say it. this was the time where I needed to make a decision on my graduation date, because now I'm getting a little bit older. I'm getting a little bit more tired. So I needed to make a final decision on my graduation date. So I met with my mentor, Miss Jan. Shout out to Miss Jan. She's awesome, y'all. I actually just emailed her today and was telling her, thank you for helping me through my college career. And shout out to her, but really the shout out goes back to also Miss Deanne Jackson. I don't know if she still works for GGC or not, but she was the interim advisor to kind of Miss Deanne Jackson. She was kind of the interim advisor for freshmen and sophomores, and then once you get serious into your college major, then you get assigned to a different mentor that can specialize in that. So I got appointed to Miss Jan, and I met Miss Jan. I remember meeting Miss Jan for the first time I met her. I was kind of nervous because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know. So to this day, I still thank Miss Jan for that, because she really helped me through. She really helped me make my decision, and she really understood the struggles, not only financially, but and I'll say this, I've had family troubles too. I had family troubles. I had financial troubles as well within my first 3 years of college. So it hasn't been easy. And I can honestly say on this podcast that Ms. Jan was one of the people that really guided me through. And she really emphasizes, and she really understood my pain and my struggle that I'm going through. So she gave me a lot of coaching up, I would say. She gave me a lot of great pep talks before. And that time, in 2018, I told her that, this is a year for change. She was telling me at first, if you continue with your business degree, and I told her, I failed classes before, and, that I failed one class that year, and she said, K.L.P, you can take the classes again, but you will not graduate in 2020. She said, at the rate you're going, with you wanting a business degree, administration degree with international business, there's a lot of classes with that. So your expected graduation date is 2021, maybe fall of 2021. So at that time, I'm like, okay, I don't think I want it, because I haven't found my interest in international business. I just haven't. So at the time, I had asked her, is there a communications degree with business? And I can't remember if she said yeah or no, but she also said, why don't you do marketing? And I said, that could work. Because she saw that I do marketing for Res Live. And then at that time, she saw that I was getting into more of marketing with GGC Athletics. So she said to me, Kenny, you're marketing athletics, and you market Res Life. Go into marketing. That's your niche. That's what you do. And then I told her about my YouTube, K.L.P. Entertainment, media label. And she's like, you do that stuff, so why not get a degree in it? So I thought to myself real deeply, like, I think that could work. So I ended up switching it out and doing marketing. Luckily, some of the classes that I took, I had already took, and it still counted. So I wasn't going to be left behind. But she had asked me, because I remember I also had a minor in film, because at that time they just rolled out the CMAP majors when I'm already into my program. So I couldn't go back, because if you guys know me really well, my true fashion and my true passion is film. Before I started GGC, I was planning on going to Full Sail University in Florida. I got accepted, actually, to Full Sail University, but, of course, life takes a turn, and Miss Jen says, you can still do a film minor, and you can still get your major in business. And she said, if you go in the rate you're going, you could look at 2020 as a graduation date. So we set a date, and we were going for there. This next part, it took a turn, because, this time, this was 2018. Well, yeah, 2018. I was still in RA the spring of 2018. That year counts for 2017 to 2018. So I was still in RA. That year was very kind of difficult as RA, not in particular. It's because me being a junior at that time and still working and doing work study, I tell you, for you gentlemen who've had girl residents before, and I'm not saying that they were horrible because they were great, but they were just a little bit hard to manage because, you have to watch it's not like talking, if you're a guy, RA, you have to kind of think differently for your girl residents because some of the things you might like to want to do for your guys, like you want to do a video game night, the girls may not be interested in that. Some girls are gamers. I'm not saying that girls can't be gamers, but that year was very different because I had girl residents and I had to really understand girl residents, Res Life students, because this was new. And I remember that like it was yesterday as well. That's going to be the phrase for today's podcast. Remember it like it was yesterday. It was 2017 starting out, my second term for RA. And, I was ready to go. I was getting guy residents. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for the fellas. I'm going to do that for the fellas. Like, I have some plans. And someone messed up our list. So how the way the Res Life was cut, I was towards the end of the hall of 1,000. So Sandrine pulled me aside and said, we had a meeting. And she said to me, Kennedy, someone messed up the list. And you're actually going to have guy and girl residents. And she said, is that something you think you can handle? At the time, I was trying to impress, and I said, nothing to it but to do it. And that's my can-do attitude, is nothing to it but to do it. So I said to Sandrine, like, yes, I will be able to do it. So I had to change their door decks, and that's what we call them, door decks, because the door with their names on it, so that way when they first move in, they know which room they're going into. So I had to change their door decks because I had sports cars as my guide door decks. And I believe I was trying to change it for my girls because I didn't know. I didn't have time to change it. So when they got there, I think one girl had asked me about it. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I just got I just got told that I was having girl residents. So like a day ago. So it was kind of a complete turn. So they understood and they laughed and they, and I said to them, like, I'm sorry, like I just found out about you guys yesterday. So I didn't have time to really change some things. So girl residents, they're very interesting because I think I had 4 girls that were athletic girls. So it was very interesting to say the least because now me still working for athletics, in 2017, being the president in work study, I saw them a lot at athletics. So I tried not to talk about Res Life stuff at athletics, and they've known that before. And I tell them they get ready for the game. They pull me aside and ask me about a Res Life meeting or a suite meeting or something. And I say to them, hey, you focus on your game. I'll email you about that later because we're at a game. You're trying to get focused. Don't worry about what I need to meet with you about with your suite later. We'll do that later. Well, there's a time and a place for that. So we ended up, I ended up having girl residents. That was very interesting because, again, I never had girl residents before, and it's interesting. I'll just keep it at that. It was very interesting. 2018 came around the corner, and I think after that, 2018 came around the corner. It was the spring semester. That was a very fun semester, to say the least. But that was the year of change because now, fast forwarding back, I ended up changing my major and I ended up doing marketing instead. And 2018 was very different because I had messed up. I'll be honest, and I'll be honest with you guys on the podcast. I've messed up. There's been plenty of times in college where I've really, truly messed up with my classes. And this was my downfall. I really messed up because I had too much on my plate. I had too much going on. And I really messed it up. And let me tell you, it was very different. It was a very different experience when I had messed up because it was the springtime. I failed one class, which dropped my GPA down lower, and that didn't help because the year before that I failed another class. So as you fail your classes, your GPA goes down. And remember, Res Life requires you to have a certain type of GPA, and I didn't have it. So I messed it up. I ended up having to retire from RA after my second year because my GPA was not there. At that time, I was stressed. I did not know what to do. I talked to Miss Jan about it, and she gave me a pep talk, and she said, "Hey, just keep pushing, keep pushing." And she also set me aside because, of course, at the end of that, you meet your mentor for your next year. She said, "Kennedy, I know you messed up, but this is not going to put you at 2020 graduation date. This is going to put you back maybe spring of 2021 because of me failing the class." She said, and at that time I was like, okay, my funding's down. Possibly might be getting my own place because I'm going to have to. What can I do? She said, if you drop your film minor, you can still be on time. And at that time, she said, you can do that. You can be on time if that's what you want to do. She's not encouraging anything rough, but she said if that's the route you want to take. And she tells me, any route you want to take, I'm down for you, Kennedy. I'll be sure to help you out and thick and through, and I'll be sure to coach you up. But you have to make that decision. So I ended up making that decision to drop my film minor, which was okay because at the time, I had the experience in film already with production and other films that I've made in the past, so it was cool that I didn't have that film minor. I was cool for that. 2018, I moved off campus. I reached out to my friend Connor. Back in 2015, we became roommates at Res Life, and then he moved out. And then I reached out to my friend Connor and said, hey, what are you doing? Like, are you planning on getting your own place soon? And at the time, he was in the market for his own place. I said, well, I'm moving out of Res Life, so if that's what you want to do, we can get a spot together. We can start something new. And then at the time, I met, we call ourselves the squad, because a group of friends, I'll shout them out on the podcast, Mutsi, Phil, David, Jess, Patrick, Naima, Portia, all those people that was in that other side of the clique that didn't go to, Mutsi, she went to GGC, and then my other friends, they went to different colleges. So I ended up meeting up with them via Connor. So I moved out and did my own thing, and, I missed it. I missed up a lot of things that I missed up on in 2018, and a lot of people ask me, it's bittersweet that Kennedy's not an RA anymore, but I tell my friends that are RAs, like, it's not the system's fault, it's my fault, because I didn't stay focused. I didn't stay focused in my studies that year. So I knew from now on, I know to stay focused and to continue my education, because that's what really matters. Being part of RA was fun, but getting that degree is more important. Same thing with being a president of GDN, it's fun, but that degree is the most important thing you got to do in college. That's your goal. Not to party in college, but to get that degree. So after that, moved off the campus, missed up on a lot of things. I missed going to the dining hall most likely because at that time I became a commuter and I never really went to the dining hall. I had so many experiences in the dining hall. Every time me and my brother texted, hey, have you eaten yet? No? You want to go to the dining hall? Or whether it's the RAs, we all go to the dining hall. It's one big feast when every RA is in the dining hall and we're all sitting at one big table and we're all talking about what we're going to do for our next event and stuff. So the dining hall was very, very interesting. The food they upgraded the food over the years, honestly. They had a lot of more updated items as the years went on. I always used to go to the hibachi spot because that would be the spot I get for lunch, and then I go to the Chef's Flair for dinner. So it was very, very awesome to see students eating together, eating dinner, eating lunch together, even breakfast. I took advantage of breakfast sometimes too because at that time I was an RA, so I was able to get in there for free and to really enjoy that. So that's one memory that I will miss is the dining hall for sure. The dining hall was fantastic. At the end of that year, when I was leaving Res Life, we ended up having a RA celebration. That was the celebration where they awarded RA of the year and best dress, most are likely to be late. I did miss the fashion shows. The fashion shows that Res Life has planned based off my experience going to fashion shows now 3 years in a row, has been very spectacular. This year would have been fourth, but unfortunately due to COVID-19, of course, obviously there is no fashion show this year. But hopefully they get to recoup back and do that again next year. Fashion shows has been great. We had RAs to plan that up. Over 2,000 people came to those events every year because it was that was this show you had to go see. You had to be there or square. And I just have to say that because that was one show you just had to be there to witness what fashion was going to be about this year or that year. So they've really rocked the ice with the fashion shows. That's their key cornerstone with the fashion shows for sure. So all that in consideration, I did miss starting 2018 as a commuter. So as I get serious, 2018 ended up getting a job, a more big boy, I would say, job, and living life and paying bills and learning about adulthood and going to school. Got a new car. 2018 was a great year in that aspect because it was time for me to grow up. And every student, when you're not a freshman or sophomore or junior year, you become more of a late junior, early senior. You tend to grow up. You tend to stay focused and say, okay, here's the mission now. So at that time in 2018, I know, okay, here's the mission. I got to get graduated soon. So fast forward, all the way forward, late 2018, early 2019, GGC emailed me, and Matt Mahoney emailed me and said, hey, I've got a marketing coordinator assistant for you. And at the time, it was Nate Colgrove. He was the, I want to say, external or internal. I forgot if he was, I think he's internal operations manager, I think. I don't know. I don't know the correct term for that. So he emailed me and said, hey, you've been with the program for quite a long time. I hear that you're not an RA anymore. Would you be interested to still pursue work study and to do part-time marketing coordinating for GGC Athletics? Of course, I took the job. And at that time, I started my other job with property management, so I was able to divvy my time and go to school because I knew at the time I needed jobs to help pay my bills. And, every student knows about that. You have to make it. You got to make it, fake it till you make it. You got to make money to pay bills and make sure you're comfortable. So that was the idea, marketing for them. And that year was also great too because the soccer season was very good in 2018 because a lot of people, a lot of students came up to the games and wanted to go see the games because there was a great marketing plan. Of course, you saw me all over campus, campaigning. You've seen flyers everywhere, and I do mean everywhere. Like, athletes even tell me, Kennedy, you posted flyers everywhere. But that's what was necessary and what was needed, and we didn't get in trouble for that. So that year was very fantastic, and that year we had promotional items, so we were able to market athletics really, really well. That was very, very, very fantastic. Now, fast forward to, still 2018, because we went to Orange Beach, Alabama with athletics, and that was fun. You guys can watch our travel vlog for that. But fast forward to 2019. 2019 was very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, you guys know, 2019 was the year of something amazing to happen. And we'll get to that in this podcast. We will. So, as 2019 grew in, my property management job at the time needed me full-time because we were picking up. We've made some decent money from that. So, they needed me to be full-time to help manage it. So, I had to make the cautious decision to resign for the marketing coordinator because I didn't have time in my schedule for them. So I ended up leaving them, unfortunately, due to me being full-time at another job and still staying focused for school. Going to classes, really being a very interesting year. Early 2019 was, I would say, the acts of boredom because I was just going to school and going to work. So I haven't really enjoyed the spring like I wanted to because there's just nothing, like I couldn't be an RA anymore and I had nothing going on. But it was fall, and then I did summer 2019 again. Went to school, passed my classes, and going home and working. That basically it. I had nothing going on in 2019, unfortunately, but just staying focused on my studies and getting through. Now I became a senior. After spring, I became a senior and said, "Oh, I'm so close now." So then, fast forward to 2019 of fall, the birth of the Grizzly Talk Podcast. I had this crazy idea because I was so bored with 2019. I had nothing going on. I couldn't work with athletics anymore because I had a full-time job. I couldn't be an RA anymore because I didn't have the GPA. Mind you, I was passing classes, but my GPA still wasn't there. I was so bored, and I said, I cannot go out this way. I cannot have GTP, I can't have my GGC career go out this way where I'm just graduating and I've achieved greatness, but my senior year, not doing anything. I just can't do it. So I became more involved, and I formed a radio show, a podcast show called the Grizzly Talk Podcast, what you guys will listen to right now. And I've done podcasts. I'm doing podcasts, so I wasn't too bored, but I was doing podcasting before. And I said, why don't I build a school podcast? First ever, first in class, top notch, first ever. Never been done before at GGC. So then that was the point where I'm like, okay, we'll get this started. I didn't know what this was going to be. I thought it was just going to be maybe 300 followers and, just a couple of episodes, just something fun to do. And I immediately, after the months went on in 2019, Grizzly Talk Podcast grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. Streaming on pretty much every platform now. 30 countries worldwide, international network. I'm like, okay, I can run with this. Of course, made some revenue off of it and, paid it off with business expenses and new equipment and getting better. I had a friend. She was part of it. Her name's Precious. Shout out to Precious. Hopefully she's maybe listening to us. She started with us in 2019 and, we ventured on and we kept going. And RSOs wanted to be on the podcast in 2019. And, it was very exciting. And I was telling professors at the time about it, and they was like, "Oh, really? I didn't even know we had this." So it grew. It really grew to great heights, and everyone tuned in for it. Of course, staying focused with classes and getting through and going to work as well, but I was doing the podcast in fall of 2019. And then we fast forward to the unfortunate 2020. Fortunate and unfortunate. Here's why. We're huge. We're big. Spring of 2020 was a very strange year because we all knew about the unfortunate deaths we've experienced. Shout out to Kobe Bryant. COVID-19 first kicked in. Still wanting to do podcasts, people still being a part of it. And then COVID-19 happened. This was the down peak of everything. Everyone knows about it, and I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about how impactful COVID-19 was to GGC, because we all know. So we shut it down. We were doing more virtual things after spring. So after the spring season, we shut it down. We started doing more digital stuff. Then I want to say fast forward later, 2020 of summer came around. I took 2 classes, and at that time I checked my banner and I said, holy crap, after these 2 classes, I need 5 more classes, then I'm graduated, I'm done. So, ended up doing that, interning for GGC Athletics. That was good work we did there. It's kind of interesting because I started with GDN, recruitment, and then started with just marketing coordinator for work study, and then doing internship with marketing. So it's kind of backwards, kind of. And then fast forward, of course, it was fall of 2020, this current time. And I knew, unfortunately, you guys knew about the downfall of GTP. I mean, upfall and downfall. We became more personal. We became more, I guess I can say political. always Black Lives Matter, always. So we've became more, because of COVID-19 and the current events that happened in 2020. I can pretty much say that 2020 has been the most stressful year I've ever experienced. And I thought 2019 was bad, but 2020 was horrible in that aspects of COVID-19 and everything going down, spring and summer. But fall, fall's still kind of out there, but we're still kind of turning things around. And it led up to that, 5 classes, got those done, and now we're graduating. We are officially graduating. It is a bittersweet moment that I'm able to leave this legacy to it. When it pertains to the podcast, it's a legacy. It's a milestone with me getting my degree, but it's a huge legacy for Grizzly Talk Podcast. And now we can pretty much say that, this is a legacy for the future. It's a legacy that we're leaving behind. I met so many good friends that were a part of this legacy. So many people came apart to become part of Grizzly Talk Podcast. And even so, we've had two great friends doing a capstone about radio station. Unfortunately, the Grizzlies on Air radio station, I don't think we were able to kick that off strong due to COVID as well. So, but shout out to Taylor and Felicia. They worked really, and Nikia as well, or Nikhil, I'm sorry. In the group, they worked on this capstone about building a radio station. They pulled me in. They said, "Hey, we want you to be president of this because you have the knowledge, you have the skill, you have the experience." And then, unfortunately, with life taking its turn and 2020 taking its turn, I wasn't able to perfect more of that. But you guys noticed that lately we announced Live 94.6 The Grizz. That legacy continues. Now, it may not continue to the aspects of talking about Georgia Gwinnett College news anymore, because with me being a college grad from GGC, I can't really talk about GGC if I'm not a student anymore. But I do want you guys to know this before we close out. I do want you guys to know that I am very humbled with my past 5 years. Yes, 5 years. 5 years of college experiences that you guys bestowed that on me. And it's bittersweet. And I can pretty much say it's bittersweet, and it's been an honor. What I do, and some people say it's a cliche when they say, "Oh, if I had the opportunity, I'd do it again." I don't think I'll do it again. I'll be honest. I'm not doing this again. But, but it's been an honor to serve as a beacon. And then people tell me too, and this is true story. A lot of people tell me that, "Kennedy, you've done really good things for this school. In particular, the podcast. You've done this justice. You've done this RSO right, because this RSO is just so different than other RSOs." And it's not a bluff. It's not a brag on GTP, because every RSO, in my opinion, that I've experienced, I think they're great. But people have told me that, "Kennedy, you really made this RSO to what it is today." So as we merge and as we transfer over, and as we won't have the name Grizzly Talk Podcast after it's all over, this legacy continues. I do implore a lot of students who want to be creative, who wants to think outside the box, do something that hasn't been done before. I say go for it. Go for the opportunity of changing the game, because that's our GGC slogan, game changer. Change the game. And, believe me, with the Grizzly Talk Podcast, I've been told no so many times. I have. But that didn't stop me. That didn't stop me to grow the great RSO to where it is today. That didn't stop me from getting people on the show. That didn't stop me to talk about more stuff. That didn't stop me to talk about K.L.P. entertainment stuff as well. So I'm very blessed to have, first of all, I went to GGC and got my education, and now getting my degree, and meeting so many people I've met throughout my college experience, and I'm still meeting people. It's been a journey. It really, really has been a journey. And for all of you guys who are graduating this fall of 2020, I gotta say congratulations to you Grizzlies. We made it. We made it happen. I do want to thank many RSOs that were a part of this legacy. To name a few, the ISA, International Student Association, the American Sign Language, OLAS, Green Light, Res Life, Student Government Association, Grizzly Percussion, Grizzly Digital Network, GGC Athletics, and all their teams. I got to thank for GGC PD. They really helped us out really well. I got to give a shout out to the Volleyball Club. I got to give a shout out to GGC Advising, the GGC Alumni Association, the GGC SST, GGC Get Involved, GGC Financial Aid. A shout out to GGC Barely Actors. I know they've been seeing a lot of film stuff we've been doing. GGC Nursing, GGC Scrubs. Huge shout out to Sydney. Shout out to you, Sydney. GGC Ginger, Grizzly Serve, GGC Intramural Sports Program, the GGC Wellness and Recreation Center, GGC Dance. Special shout out to GGC Art Club, the GGC Pakistani Student Association, GGC Pre-Dental Society, GGC Equestrian Club. Shout out to Megan. GGC Investors Chorus. Shout out to GGC Library. They've seen some of our stuff. Shout out to GGC Honors Program. Shout out to Charlie that was a part of that. She was on the podcast. Shout out to Outdoor Adventures. Shout out to Brandon. GGC Bookstore. Special shout out to GGC Gear. So Jason Brown and Sydney, I want to say. Yeah, Sydney and Jason Brown. I forgot Sydney's last name. I'm sorry. Sorry, Sydney. So sorry. And shout out to Dr. Wesker, too. She was part of GGC Gear. The Faces of Gender and Sexuality. Shout out to the Finance Club. They've seen some of our stuff. GGC Grizzlyettes. And I think I mentioned the American Sign Language Club again, but shout out to Stephanie. She's the president of that. Shout out to Grizzly Dining and African Voice. So many shout outs for a lot of our souls that are still part of it. Shout out to Student Fashion Association. I almost forgot about them. We did their retro fashion show. We even podcast about it. Very, very fun. So shout out to a lot of students. Shout out to a lot of people who made this thing possible. So, as I leave out and as I log out to you GGC students, I do want to say again to our graduates, a very congratulations. And this was your host of the Grizzly Talk Podcast, Kennedy Lucas Patterson, signing off for the final time on the Grizzly Talk Podcast. As always, stay safe and go Grizzlies.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong, and what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood comes first, then the line will